Hey, it's Brad. It's day 13 or 14. It's all running together. But we have the Kubota UTV out at the property. We're gonna try to make it across our creek. Let's see if we can do it. So I decided to give it a go today since we've had some ideal weather. Now, despite having a couple rain showers yesterday when we were out here working, the 1 to 2 inches of rain that we were forecasted to potentially get, we got nothing out here. It actually worked out even better than that because at our home property, we got almost 2/10 of an inch of rain, which is great because we just broadcast seeded our fall food plot mix. So no rain out here, enough rain back at the home property. That adds up to the potential for me getting the Kubota UTV across the creek. Now we have a couple things to do along the way before we get there. First of all, we need to take care of a couple overhanging branches that have really grown beyond what we were used to when we brought the tractor out before. So I brought my pole saw out with me so we can knock those out quick. The more challenging spot's gonna be when we get closer to where the low water crossing is. And if you remember from the other day, we were dealing with some of the mud that had been brought in from that really high creek level from the other day. So we're gonna have to try to get that taken care of. Now, if we can get across the creek, that's the ideal situation because we need to go ahead and get the Kubota up the hill so we can use this to transport all of the chips we're gonna create from the ash trees that we were bringing up the hill from the other day. Now, I have plenty of places to put wood chips, but I can actually use them pretty quickly here on a lot of these paths. Now, they're not a long-term solution, as we've talked about. They will break down and they will get washed away if we get really heavy rainfall, especially if they're in any kind of incline or decline. But it does provide a temporary solution, especially in those areas that tend to get wet or have a hard time drying out. So if we can get across the creek, even if we make a little bit of a mess, we'll be able to take care of that and get these wood chips down, especially if we continue to have dry weather. We got to stop talking about it. Let's get going. Let's see how we do. All right, well, I skimmed off some of the existing mud, hopefully to expose as much gravel on these approaches across the lower water crossing. Let's see how it goes. We need to get across the creek, so let's do this. Crossing my fingers. That went much better than I was planning on, so that's great. We got across the creek, no problem, and we're gonna get up the hill to the more important stuff we gotta get done today. I'm glad that didn't take much longer than it did. So having the UTV out here is beneficial on so many levels. First of all, it's so good to have it out here so we can put our chips in the back of the bed and we can transport it anywhere on the property, especially those areas that we need it the most in some of our pathways to soak up some of that remaining water and for any future rain events. Secondly, and maybe just as important, it is a great way to transport at once all of the equipment that we need to be successful at what we're trying to accomplish out here. My saws, my bucket full of all the other tools, my trimmer, all the things that we need that I would have to literally walk in to get here if I didn't have the UTV. Now I don't have to do that and we can concentrate on actually doing the work up here. So I'm gonna get all the equipment here out of the back of the UTV and I'm gonna jump over into the tractor, finish up a little bit of mowing on the hill that I need to make our accessibility to some of the down dash trees a little bit easier for us. And then I'm gonna swap out some of the attachments. I'll drop the brush cutter and I'll put on the chipper and I'll go grab our bucket. We might be using that to tip over some of these trees instead of getting the chainsaw. We have a couple more that I know we're gonna need a chainsaw instead of tipping over because there's still enough alive that I'm sure the root structure is gonna be too strong for us to be pushing over with the tractor. Even though that's super fun, we wanna make sure that we get our job done. So we have a lot of chainsawing to do today and looking forward to getting that done. All right, let's get rolling. All right, so we got everything swapped around on the tractor and we are about ready to fire up the chainsaw. However, we do need to do a little bit of maintenance before we get going here. So the last time I changed my chain, I realized I had an issue that I had to resolve. Now, for those that are interested, I am a big fan of Stihl products and I'm not sponsored, but I've used Stihl for many, many years and it's dependable and it just works for me. So I'm just gonna tell you what I'm using and that's just kind of an aside. But one of the things that you need to do if you're going to be using a chainsaw often is being aware of some of the things that need to be replaced or updated as you are going about your jobs. If you do not, you're gonna find excessive chain wear, and you're gonna put a lot of stress on your machine. So this is one of the things that needed to be changed. So what I have here, these are chain sprockets that I have for my chainsaw. And they are identical, except for a couple things. First of all, this one right here is the one that I currently had on my chainsaw. And it is a little bit worse for the wear, obviously. The color is different. This one is the new one. It looks pretty bright, of course. It's never been used. But you can't really tell a big difference right away. But when I get a little closer here, I want you to look at the sprockets, okay? You see that? See the difference right there? This is a significant thing. So the reason that I need to change out to this brand new one is because of these grooves right here. So as you use your chains, you're gonna end up grooving into your sprocket, and the more grooving you get, the more it's going to stress that chain. It's gonna make it a lot quicker to dull, and it's gonna put more work onto your machine. It's gonna stretch out that chain. Now, chains over the course of time do stretch out, all right? That's kind of part of how the chain works. As it heats up, it expands. As it cools, it contracts, and there is a mechanism on every chainsaw that allows you to tighten up that chain as you work it. And over the course of time, again, as you're putting pressure onto that sprocket, it's gonna create these grooves that you need to be aware of. So just a helpful tip as you're using a chainsaw, if you're comfortable with it or you're newer to it, don't forget to look at your sprocket. Eventually, you may need to replace the entire assembly, including the bearing and all the components, but I just changed that the last time, so I'm just gonna be putting in the brand new chain sprocket today. Once we get this finished, we're gonna get over to all of our wood pile, and we are gonna start making some progress. All right, let's get to it. Because of the mud that's still there, we're gonna put down some of these wood chips to hopefully soak up any remaining moisture and get it as dry as we can be, especially if we don't get any heavy rain for the next 7 to 10 days. For the rest of it, we have some areas on our pathways that are a little lower than others, so we're gonna try to strategically put that out today. We'll get the Kubota back closer to the front of the property, and we'll head out for the day. Come back tomorrow and we'll hit this hard with pretty much a full day of just cutting and chipping, so it'll get a lot of stuff done here. All right, enough talking about it. We gotta get this done. We still have some things we gotta get done on our way out of here, so enough talking, more doing. Our day today. So after we filled up the Kubota UTV with all the wood chips from up on top of the hill, the whole point was to make some of the areas that were too wet a little bit more passable, and that's exactly what we've done. So what you're seeing here over my shoulder is the approaches to and from the low water crossing. There is gravel underneath there, but all the mud that had flowed over during that high water event had caked down there. Before we went across here, I was out here with a shovel scraping it down to as much gravel as I could get to, but it was still kind of muddy. My feet were absolutely caked with mud. And what this does, it is a temporary solution. It binds to the mud and it dries it out, and it allows us to be able to go over and back without getting stuck or creating more ruts. Now, it might look pretty good, and I'm pretty happy with how this looks. I like what we do with mulch. Number one, it takes some branches that normally would be useless, and we chuck them in the woods, and we actually do something with it. We do this in our Door County property all the time. We have a lot of pathways that we take a lot of the branches from ash trees up there, we chip them, and then we put them in our pathways, and we love it. It's beautiful. But I do know this is temporary. If we were to have another high water event, two things are gonna happen. Either the water coming down the hill because of gravity is gonna create some ruts and it's gonna push that mulch away, or the mud coming down from a high water event is just gonna cover it up again. 100% get it. But temporarily, this is gonna help us get back and forth and keep us moving in the meantime. So it'll eventually turn to dirt anyway. That's we're just speeding up the decomposition of this wood that was previously standing upright in a field just across the creek here. All right, so in order to demonstrate pretty much how good this works is you're gonna follow me on the camera, but I'm gonna walk all the way down here, all the way across to the other side of the creek. And when I was over here before, when I got to this point, my feet were absolutely muddy. It was unbelievable. But I'm gonna show you, as I walk across right now, I'm walking the same exact path across a low water crossing, and up right to you. All right, you saw that's all I was doing, right? And I'm gonna do this so that you can see. I'm gonna try to make this as painless as possible. I'm gonna take this camera off of the stand here, and I want you to take a look. I want you to take a look at my bottom of my boots, all right? Here we go. All right, can you see that? Now sure, there's a little bit of mud there, but there's hardly anything, and it's not prohibiting me at all. That's why we're doing this. So the whole point of us doing that is proven there. It's gonna be a little bit more difficult with a tractor. If it's still a little bit muddy underneath, it'll slide around a little bit, but it's so much better than it was. And we're at a point where we're not gonna bring any more gravel in here, and it really is accomplishing it. All right, the mosquitoes are starting to get me. It's been a fantastic day as far as getting stuff done. Tomorrow when I come out, I'm gonna be able to go right across the creek with the Kubota. Don't have to stop. We're gonna go up, we're gonna have a full day of processing wood and getting chips, and really it's gonna be a super productive day as long as no surprise rain happens. So I will see you tomorrow when you can once again watch Brad work.